That's it. Mhm. I think he understands what mute means. Oh. Hello. We can't hear anything. I dialed in with the phone, but it needs to be admitted. Okay. Okay. I got an
to be certain that we have enough room in that contract. But then I think I used it for maybe a month. So it could look like it's going to be an issue, but then also, so yes and no is probably the answer to your question.
Isn't it also true that, so client A comes in, you do your screens and see what they qualify for, right? And then you create an array of services, and then we may contract with various providers to provide those services. But isn't it also true there's a funding stream associated with those services? So yes, our contracts go up, but there's also a funding stream to pay for that. And if there's not a funding stream, and you can correct me if I'm wrong back there, we obviously wouldn't do that, or we'd have a conversation about, well, how are we going to pay for this then?
That is accurate. And for example, one of the new contracts is Bridge the Gap. So that's a service that's a new service to us that's going to be assisting some of our kids with autism needs, socialization needs, helping with peer interaction, things like that. So they started in Shawano and just recently grew into the Green Bay area. So now it's a feasible option for the kiddos that we serve. So by providing that service, we're going to be eliminating a different service that may have been on the plan.
So maybe I could ask this differently. Can we, if you look at all the commitments on the contracted services so far, it's 3.7 million or something like that. Can we issue a new contract or increase an existing contract and exceed the budget without knowing about it?
I understand what you're asking. You know, we provide these. We're not really. I mean, I guess in a way we're increasing our budget. In a way we're not. I mean, we know our costs are our staff time and costs that we incur, right? And that's all in the budget. The variable is always the services these individual clients need, and we don't always know what they're going to need. It may change over time. So if a need arises, we contract with that, but we're kind of a pass through. I think that's the best way to say it. We contract for some service, they get the service, and then it's billed through whatever one of the programs and it's paid for. So I don't know, maybe Brian is a better answer for that. But we can't possibly know each individual service each client is going to need or receive in the course of a year and then budget for that. I suppose we could.
Yeah, I was less about that than more like a cap.
For each contract?
No, for the total, just for the aggregate.
We could do that, I suppose.
So currently we're not looking at those. I understand we have these needs out here, we write the contracts,
Right.
and I'm not disputing that. I'm just questioning, is there a check over here to say, is there enough money? Because we were just talking about how some services can be written for maybe a whole year and then not used.
Right.
But then when we look at this list, they may not get brought down. They may still appear as if we could still maybe spend that throughout the year.
Right.
So that adjustment, maybe people have in the back of their mind, I won't need that. But if there's no comparison, then we could end up with contracts that are potentially going to spend more than our budget allowed, and we wouldn't be aware of it even as we're approving new ones. That was really the fundamental question.
I think I understand what you're asking. But most of the some of these agencies provide services to multiple clients. That's for sure. And those we watch closely, but a lot of them are very specific to one client.
Okay.
And there's a funding stream associated with that service. Otherwise, we either wouldn't provide the service or we have to have a discussion about how we're going to pay for this. So before we take on these services, we have to have a discussion about how it's getting paid for. And if there's not a funding stream for it, then it's not getting provided.
And the only reason I'm bringing it up is we're asked repeatedly to approve these contracts. And I don't want to be party to just, not responsibly looking at what we have available to pay for it and end up being party to, again, exceeding a budget that we tried very hard to meet.
And maybe what we can do is when we say we're adding contract 1, 2, and 3, we can say, how is it getting paid for? So at least you know the funding stream that's paying for it. If it's a CLTS situation, or if it's a CCS, or whatever it is, we'll put on there, this is getting paid for.
And again, I just wanted to know it wasn't exceeding a budget. I don't need to get into all the details, but
Okay.
I just thought that was part of our responsibility when we're being asked to approve them.
That is a good point. sometimes we take for granted how these, and there's a lot of dollars going out the door, but a lot of it's just passing through us.
Okay, Milt?
No. I'm not a parent. I don't have children. I don't have any children. But are some families, I don't want to say this wrong. I don't mean to criticize, but since everything costs so much, the therapists and all the caseworkers and all the work and that, are there some parents pushing the children, especially the smaller children? I don't mean to be wrong. I don't want to be disrespectful anyway. Are some parents putting more emphasis or more expectations that the child can't do as from 0 to 3 or as a young child, that they were pushing the child, that just give the child some time, let the child speak, let the child walk, let the child think? Are they pushing too much expectations that, hey, my child is slower, my child could have a condition, study this, take some time, take the county money, or abusing the situation a little bit? I don't mean to be disrespectful or
No,
anything, but
fair question. We can both.
they
Yeah.
want the children to be a lot more than a child can be at 2 years old.
Sure.
I don't have children, like I said. What can a 2-year-old, are they expecting to be a 5-year-old or more, that they can do more ABCs and spelling and?
Sure. So I appreciate your question. So when referrals are made to, for example, the Birth to 3 program, a therapist and our Birth to 3 coordinator are going out and meeting with the family. They're doing a thorough evaluation to see where the child, whether or not they're meeting benchmarks and if they are developing to the standards that we would see with a typically developing child. So there are thorough evaluations that are done to monitor where the child really is. So if, mom thinks that Johnny should be doing better with his speech, but then the therapist and the coordinator go in and they're doing their testing, they find that actually they're meeting the benchmarks, then we would have a discussion about how these services aren't really needed. One other thing is that there's always a script that's coming from the doctor. So there's collaboration with the doctor's office as well. So there's medical professionals that are also providing input as to whether or not services are needed.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
But are there more parents in this 2021 that are nervous or concerned or?
From my perspective, I would say it's actually the opposite.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on contracts? Then could I entertain a motion to approve the contracts as submitted? Okay, Joanne made the motion. Is there a second? Okay, Paul second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, they are approved. Next thing is the director's report.
Thank you. My mic on. Thank you. So what I'm going to do, Doak, and we're going to take a look at some of this and perhaps provide a little bit of information about how these contracts work, how we track them, how we make sure we're not exceeding what it is we contracted for, and also how we track to make sure all this is working. I think that's important information for the committee, and we will try to do a better job of explaining how that process works and that these contracts are funded. So we will work on that. Personnel issues, Greg Mathers was hired by our contract provider. He will be starting Monday. He will be a new CCS social worker starting Monday. Another one of our contract CCS workers is on maternity leave. She's slated to return mid-July. And Kelly is our CCS coordinator. She's slated to return in August from maternity leave. Our new CPS worker, Brandy Lippold, officially completed her basic intake worker training and got a 95% on her intake exam. So Brandy did a nice job. And she's doing very well, as I understand it. So we're very excited about that. As you know, there is a vacant CPS position on our org chart, and I indicated to Ms. Conkle that I would be entertaining filling that this fall. So my thought was, let's get Brandy fully up to speed here, although she seems to be doing very well. Let's get her fully up to speed. We got to get through budget, and then this fall we'll look at filling that position. That's what I have for staffing report. Some special projects we're working on, just some house cleaning and shredding. We're doing that. I would give a special thank you to Cindy Kinnard. She was able to secure some funding to help us shred some documents in our file room. Also, she's going to purchase some AV equipment for one of our small conference rooms. So that's all related to some COVID money she had. Melissa was able to secure us a $20,000 grant to do a self-assessment of our CST program. We're working on that right now, and we're hoping that's very helpful for our agency. So we were working through that. So it's actually $20,000 to complete that assessment. Also, once we get through the assessment, if we find some deficiencies or we feel like we need some training, part of that 20,000 can be used to purchase some of those training for our department. CST has coordinated service teams. They want to see that we're putting together a holistic system of care based on the wraparound principles. I think I'm getting all this right. Sometimes there's a lot of wordage and sometimes I don't get it quite right. But that process I'm very pleased with. It's going very well. The team we put together is giving good feedback, and we're fairly assessing our department. We also, as part of that, reaching out to people outside our organization to get a good sense of where some lapses in our processes are. I don't know if Brian mentioned that you indicated energy services is going to be, that's not going to happen?
No, I didn't mention it.
Oh, you didn't mention it. So right now we provide, we get some money to provide energy services, but it's a pass through, meaning we get the money and then we contract with, what's the name of the company? Energy Services. So rather than be the in-between person in this arrangement, we're just going to get out of that business and the state will contract directly with Energy Services. So folks out in the community who need energy assistance will just contract Energy Services directly. We don't have to deal with any of the administrative or, we're not making any money off this. It's just extra work for us. There's no point for us to do it. The service is available for the community if they need energy assistance. So I thought I'd put that out there. I indicated that on the agenda that starting maybe at your next meeting, maybe we can move to our training room downstairs. That's up to you certainly, but I think it'd be more convenient for us. And it's a nicer environment. We have the table set up in there. So I'd encourage you to make use of that room. In the financial report, Brian did mention that it costed us $3,250 to onboard Mr. Mathers as that new contract position. As I indicated to you last meeting, I'm going to put together my pitch about why we should move some of these positions from contracted to county employee. I did assign Brian and his team to put together a financial assessment of what it costs us to deal with turnover. So you're going to get that information when we make our ask. But I can tell you it's going to be startling when you see it. It's quite a substantial amount. We have had some turnover in the last few years of these positions. So that information will be coming for you. I wanted to thank Melissa for her Adult Protective Services report. Maybe one thing that maybe didn't appreciate in that report is when someone is in a community and they are of sound mind, if they're an elder or your parents or some elder in the community, if they are of sound mind, they can decide what they want to do. We can go and, the neighbors call us and say, hey, we're concerned about our neighbor. We're concerned about our mother. We go into the place and see maybe it's in horrible condition. Maybe there's medical care is not being attended to. But if that person has their wits about them and they are able to articulate that this is where they want to be, that's the end of it. As you get older in life and you want to live in your home and you want to spend your final days in your home and you're of sound mind, that's your prerogative. Because very often we get calls like that. I'm really concerned about my neighbor. The place is horrible. I'm not seeing him walk around as much because maybe they have some health concerns. And I would also say that Jody and obviously Melissa, they do a great job with this population. They do amazing work, and I marvel at some of the things they can do. And I also echo that was a very important point about the financial exploitation. It's almost maddening sometimes. And sometimes these things happen where these people are getting fleeced out of money and people are telling them, you are getting fleeced. This is a scam. Their loved ones, the police, we are telling them this is a total scam, and yet they continue. So I would encourage you when you get those unknown calls on your phone, just don't even take them. It's a scam. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs where you can't answer the phone anymore, but I think that's what we have to do. I think that's all I wanted to report on today. Does anybody have any questions on the Human Services Department?
I have Melissa. I just wanted to know with the driving program. I know I've been having to say no to a lot more calls from Lori recently, and I'm wondering with still not that many drivers, if there's rides that need to be canceled, like important medical rides or wherever, where we just don't have the drivers.
We continue to have more and more drivers coming back. They're feeling more comfortable after, receiving their vaccine or just with the COVID situation in general. So that's good. And then if you recall, I think it was at the beginning of the year, we were awarded a grant through the Greater Green Bay Foundation. So that's additional funding that we're able to use if we are unable to meet the demands of ride requests. So if we aren't able to fulfill a ride, then we are reaching out to a private provider to see if they're available, and we're using some of that grant money to support the cost of those rides. So there haven't actually been that many denials. We're in pretty good shape at this point.
If you didn't have that grant, would there be more denials?
A couple months ago, yes, definitely. We were really dipping into that grant funding, but I haven't had that many requests as of late. And I actually was just reminding staff that that money is still there. So to remember that that's an option if needed.
Anything else to come before the committee? Now we'll just set the next meeting date. Do you have a one date in mind, Jeff?
Is it indicated on the agenda, or I don't know, it didn't indicate on this one. I was thinking that we would forego our July meeting. Certainly if you want a July meeting, that's up to you. I can tell you I'm gonna be on vacation in the middle of July, so we will be working. July, we'll be starting to get ready on our end for the budget, and then August is really heavy budget time. So I was thinking we could come back in August, but that's up to you. If you want a meeting in July, we'll certainly have a meeting.
It's fine with me too. Okay. Okay, then do you want to set the August meeting then?
Yes, please.
Okay.
What are we doing here? This is the Thursday.
August calendar. So will we do the 12th then?
Are we doing the third Thursday? Is that the?
The 19th? Okay. 19th at 8 o'clock, and then we'll do it in the human service area this next
Yes.
time. Okay. Okay. Anything else to come before the committee? On the 9th?
August 19th
19th.
at 8 o'clock.
At 8 o'clock in the lower level.
I'm hoping by
Okay.
that time we can have some budget discussion about some different things we might be asking for and review where we're at in that process. I suspect they're gonna want that due to finance probably by the end of the month there.
Possibly the 20th, hopefully by the 27th.
Right. So we should be, if not complete, substantially complete with our portion of the budget. I know ours is a bigger one, so Scott's probably gonna want to take a look at what we're up to as that relates to his entire budget. So hopefully we'll have some good information to share with you on the budget at our next meeting.
Okay, then could I get a motion to adjourn this meeting? Doak, a second? Julie, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.